Today we are going to review the Pulitzer Prize winning book of this year, 2020, titled The Nickel Boys, a 224-page work of historical fiction published by Doubleday on 16 July 2019, written by Colson Whitehead, who already had won this same Pulitzer Prize in 2017 as well for fiction for another of his previous amazing awesome book titled The Underground Railroad, which, by the way, I will be reviewing too pretty soon. Hello to all my dearest dear listeners and readers. A loving, sweet hello to all of you. And welcome to the world of the Alchemist Reads. I hate you. Yes, you guys heard me correct. I said, I hate you. Now please don't take this seriously. I don't hate you. I love you all. But here's the main thing. Have you people ever noticed that speaking these three toxic words, I hate you, requires you to put in such a lot of effort compared to those three bliss-producing ecstatic words, I love you. Yet, I don't know why, people all around the world are hell-bent on yelling with all their guts, breath and bone these three carcinogenic words, I hate you, always and always, only and only, thus spewing their ugly hatred towards others. But then again, why do people love showing their hatred than love to others? Good question. Well, simply because it seems these days hatred is happiness. Yep, sad but true. Because nothing else gives people as much happiness these days as putting hate on someone out there. And if this hatred could be brought forward, unleashed in all its malicious mannerisms and spiteful style by a whole lot of people, targeting a single person against a single individual, then my oh my, ooh la la, this hatred becomes the loveliest thing to indulge in. But what such people don't realize is that hatred not only kills humanity, it kills that basic human decency and dignity within all of us as well. Hatred is like stepping into a wild dark forest and getting lost into there forever without ever being able to step out of those sable woods, howling in there like a malignant lone wolf. And amazingly, the only way to kill, finish and bury any hatred is when you make it come out in the open, acknowledge it, talk about it, understand it, and then be the better man, the higher man, and ask for forgiveness, or maybe even grant that forgiveness to others. Now, this book, The Nickel Boys, is a story based on the true events that happened in the Florida Reform School named the Arthur G. Dozier School for Boys in the small panhandle town of Marianna in Florida, USA. This school was established on January 1, 1900 at the turn of the previous century, which soon became the largest segregated reform institution for the juveniles in America. By the way, such reform schools are called Borstal in India. Yes, Borstal. And through its 111-year history, this school, Arthur G. Dozier, gained a notorious reputation for abuse, beatings, tortures, and even murder of students by the staff over there. And in spite of periodic investigations, changes of leadership in the admin and management of the school, and even promises to improve the overall functioning of the school, the allegations of cruelty and abuse continued non-stop. And this tightly wrought novel demonstrates to superb effect all these horrific events, underlining that one horrendous reality of how racism in America has long operated as a codified and sanctioned activity by many of the authorities in positions of being the defenders and protectors of law and morality in American society. That's shameful. And this dark stain on US history came to light only after numerous newspaper reports and an official investigation, including the excavation of a number of unmarked graves. Yes, graves. By a team of archaeology students in 2014 in a secret graveyard that stood behind this school of the Jim Crow era, might I say. A graveyard disturbed only by developers who were wanting to build a shopping mall there. Now, it is being reported that some 81 boys had died there. The bodies of black boys which had been dumped into potato sacks have been unearthed. thus giving flesh to the rumors of the many covert killings which were carried out by the people in charge there. Thank God this school had shut its door on June 30, 2011. Now, my dear listeners, the only way to review such a gut-wrenching, hard-hitting, blood-curdling book is to read along the actual lines from the book in between my review, which is how I'll be doing this book review. Okay, alright. So the name Nickel Academy in the novel is actually the fictitious name of the swamp-surrounded school based in Eleanor, Florida, inspired of course by Dozier School. And the whole narration of this fictitious tale is inspired by the real-life events of how the African-American boys were brutally beaten, tortured, and some finally got killed by the authorities in that reformist hell house. Now, all through the history and geography of America, laws had been drafted and implemented in such a manner that they always enriched one group at the expense of another, particularly the whites over the rest. Racism and white supremacy are the ideologies underpinning the economic exploitation of black people. These laws put power into the hands of ordinary white people. A white person could have a black person arrested for maybe a harmless bumptious contact, for not giving way on the sidewalk. The system has always benefited ordinary white people. Thus, ordinary white people were invested in sustaining the system as well, which included maintaining such schools like Nickel Academy. For that was where black boys ended up if they didn't submit early. Yes, that's how brutal humans could be. Now, for the characters of the story. Elwood Curtis is the name of the protagonist of this novel, a black teenager of the 60s era whose head is filled with idealistic images of the world around him. He is like a black David Copperfield, for whom everything seems to be possible in this God-made, glorious, graceful world. He is shown to be the fourth generation of his family, expected to work in service at the Richmond Hotel in Tallahassee. But he has grander plans for himself, and Elwood, true to his part, works hard and gets good grades, attracting the attention of a new teacher at his school, who is also a civil rights activist, and gets him into free classes at a colored college south of Tallahassee. Now, Elwood, inspired by an LP record of the speeches of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and by the freedom riders and marchers among the teachers and seniors in his high school, believes he can earn enough from his after-school work at the tobacconist to one day reach an Ivy League college too. Well, he pores over Life magazine in the magazine rack and imagines himself a proper part of it. Yes, we humans, the dreamers. And here comes the clincher in the story. That on one fine day, while hitchhiking to his colored college, Elwood happens to pick up the wrong ride with the wrong man. And this is the line in the novel. When Rodney shook his hand, the rings on his fingers made Elwood wince. Wow, what a line! What a line! Now, Rodney happens to be a car thief, and soon the pair are pulled over by police. And through this one small error of judgment, Elwood's life is changed completely forever. Because now he gets sent to a reform school called Nickel Academy. There he is under the rule of a superintendent named Maynard Spencer, a character who is portrayed in a typical Nazi military officer. And here goes the line to describe him, who moved with a deliberate air as if he rehearsed everything in front of a mirror. Great line once again. Now, this character Spencer was fastidious with his dark blue nickel uniform. Every crease in his clothes looked sharp enough to cut as if he were a living blade. Now, once again, this last line was from the novel, sharp enough to cut as if it were a living blade. Wow, glorious lines, amazing writing. Throughout the novel, Whitehead, the author, borrows true details of Dozier's past and makes them a part of Nickel Academy's story. Maybe as an act of literary homage, acknowledging Dozier's victims as well as the work of reporters, investigators, and former inmates who'd already published books, reports, and journalistic accounts on and about the school. No wonder this book was included by the former US President Barack Obama in his summer reading 2019 book list. Now, in this novel, The beatings at Nickel Academy take place in a building called the White House, nicknamed the Ice Cream Factory, which, by the way, are the same names for the concrete facility, where dozier boys were whipped with a leather strap attached to a wooden pole. Yes, to a wooden handle rather. Which was reported to be 22 inches long, 4 inches wide, and a half-inch thick. Oh my God! Goodness gracious! May Lord has mercy on all of us. This world is filled with so much hatred. Gee. Nickel Academy's cemetery is named the same thing as Dozier's, which is Boot Hill. Also in Whitehead's novel, a university student from South Florida discovers unmarked graves on Nickel's campus, and in real life too, a team of forensic anthropologists from the same university have been deploying radar technology to investigate the ground beneath campus. Well, now back to the characters of the novel. Elwood's best friend is in Nickel Academy is a boy called Turner, who is not only his chief confidant or a confidant, and but also will become his would-be protector. Now, this character Turner seems to have a subtle life. He seems to have learned the reality of survival faster than most. And here goes the line to describe him. In the novel, Turner was simultaneously at home in whatever scene he found himself, and also seemed like he shouldn't have been there, inside and above at the same time, apart and apart. Great lines once again. Now this character Turner is essayed as an affable, artful, cunning and kind. A boy who might have enjoyed the freewheeling adventures of a Huckleberry Finn if only he hadn't been born black. Now this character Turner isn't interested in Dr. Martin Luther King's notion of how the world should work. Instead, he is very clear-eyed about how the world does work and how it might work for him too. At Nickel, boys are supposed to be able to advance their release date through good behavior, but nobody really knows how the system of merits and demerits work. With Turner's help, Elwood figures out that all that really matters in this place, Nickel Academy, are the whims of the white person in charge. Nickel is a microcosm of a corrupt world, in which the rule of law is meaningless and the real laws are unwritten. Whitehead's recreation of this enclosed world, which is the central section of this novel, is both highly detailed and emotionally exacting, dare I say. Elwood seems to be ready to beat a system designed to beat him. He believes he can test and fulfill one of Martin Luther King's mantras here, which is, throw us in jail and we will still love you. What a line. But sadly, to no avail. This place is thuggish, bullying, devilish in its treatment of humans and satanic in its acceptance of innocence. And yet for all the horror of the story, the descriptions of violence are remarkably understated in this novel. For the most part, the restraint on the part of the author adds to the book's impact, underlining the detachment with which the violence was enacted in the real world, in the real time. Yep, those white officers hitting these small black kids didn't feel a thing within their heart or gut. They felt no remorse, no regret, no repentance, and no mercy. Maybe there was no higher system guiding Nickel's brutality, merely an indiscriminate malevolent spite, one that had nothing to do with people. All Elwood can feel about this place, Nickel Academy, was through a science text he had once read somewhere, which was that this world is a perpetual misery machine, one that operated by itself without any human agency. Oh, truly violence seems to be the only big lever enough to move the world. Now, dear listeners, there are times when the author, Colson Whitehead, slides over key moments that without providing us much detail. For example, Elwood's conviction and sentencing. The author simply skips from the moment of his arrest to his incarceration and such. And there are such other important moments as well, where the author just simply breezes through. Still, I have to say, the author, Colson Whitehead, homes into the misery of the boys, the hatred of the officers in a real heart-piercing manner, crafting all the menacing treatment heaped upon the inmates in minute detail. And this is what I personally feel, frankly speaking. Colson Whitehead seems to be on a whirlwind mission to create a fictional space in which the buried stories of America's racial history can come out and breathe. His previous novel, The Underground Railroad, exhumed the testimonies of former slaves who had fled the American South. The novel gave those histories startling imaginative release, taking the metaphor for the network of tunnels and channels by which abolitionists helped escapees rattle north and giving it unforgettable reality. Both these novels seem to offer us, and Americans of today in particular, with an indelible corrective, if one were ever needed, need I say aloud, to ideas that people in general feel have reached a settled closure pertaining to those heinous and often unacknowledged racist past. But truly, it hasn't. They haven't. Really, guys. Colson Whitehead unspools all that unacknowledged history with a true storyteller's guile and certainty. Whitehead seems to have a gift for summarizing the essence of a person's nature in a few lines. He neither sentimentalizes nor exaggerates the tale that emerges out. He just simply writes with a clear-eyed calm, letting his characters, particularly Elwood, in this novel speak for himself. Once again, this mind-numbing, heart-searing novel is not a polemic per se, but it is presenting the unconscionable history of this particular behavior, this particular institution of incarcerating boys in solitary confinement or even burying them out the back, as it happened in American history and in so many other places throughout the world also. So all Whitehead had done is to build an allegorical history that resonates all that excruciating and agonizing pain in our present today in some form or another. So all in all, this book is a genius effort by more than a genius author. Yep, a must read for all you fiction readers out there. So don't skip it, don't miss it, don't give a second thought. If and when you come across this book, just simply grab it and buy it, go home and read it through and through, cover to cover. Okay, so this was today's book review. I hope you must have loved it, and please do check out the description of the book in the contents below, and I hope to see you soon for another book review. Okay guys, love you all. The Alchemist has left the building.